Why do I keep building mud trucks? What's going on, everyone? Today I'm gonna start on another mud truck project. What I've got in front of me here is a huge pile of parts. Now, the last mud truck that I built was a TRX4 Sport with the Traxxas lift kit and J-Concepts 2.8-inch wheels and tires. Swapped in a brushless system, a new servo, and this thing was basically just a little beast in the mud. Had a lot of fun with it, actually. Only drove it once though, which is generally how many times I drive any mud truck that I ever build. But today what I've got is a big bunch of parts inside of this Lexan body. These are from Billetworks Designs. Now, he's got a new Beast 2 monster truck style chassis platform out, made for AR60 axles, and that is why you see my bomber here. This was actually the bomber from my bomber budget build. And today we're gonna sacrifice it and I'm gonna steal the axles out of it. I wouldn't normally just steal axles out of that, but I just don't drive my bomber much anymore. I haven't found myself driving a lot of 2.2 stuff in general, so it's the donor for today. I've already stole the wheels and tires for a different project. The interior's gone, and I'm actually thinking I'm gonna use the ESC for my monthly Mayhem project. So, you know, it happens. I had a lot of fun with this build, but basically the parts are going to go to greener pastures now. So I'm gonna dump out the parts that we've got inside of this body. We'll go over what I've collected for this build, and then from there I'm gonna go as far as I can with assembling it, and we'll circle back around at the end. Now, starting with the body. This is actually the Proline Sumo body, but I've seen mega trucks built off of similar styles, so that's what I decided to pick up. Probably get cut up pretty significantly, but I don't really see any other time I'm gonna use a short wheelbase body like this, so it seemed like a really good donor. Now, for tires, I'm going with the J-Concepts Fling King tires again. These are just a really good looking tire. They fit the bill. Normally you need to use the J-Concepts wheels for these, but part of the reason I even wanted to do this build was that Billetworks, with their new chassis and everything, came up with some 2.8-inch bead locks specifically kind of for this tire. So that's what I'm going to be using. It's a true bead lock. I've already got 2 of them done, still got a couple more to go. We'll get into that shortly though. Now, getting into the base of the build, we've got the Beast 2 chassis. So you've got a TVP style or twin vertical plate that makes up the base of most of the chassis. Of course, your skid plate and all the cross braces mount to this. We've got this upper portion here which makes up kind of the cab style of the build. And then we've got a bunch of these other pieces here which are shock mounts, just of various different sizes and heights. This kit also includes a very heavy sway bar. So the sway bar rod, very thick. It's got sway bar arms and the little end links. We've got an aluminum motor plate with Beast engraved on the bottom, as well as the Billetworks logo. We've got a specific aluminum motor plate that we'll get into in a little bit because I'm actually not going to be using this one. It has adjustable mounts all the way down the length of these. Very adjustable in case, you know, you've got sway bars and shocks and all kinds of different locations. They're gonna use different lengths. Lots and lots of options there. Not sure if I'm gonna use these trailing arms or if I'm gonna switch to some Vanquish ones. And then in this bag, we've got a Delrin skid plate option compared to the aluminum one, as well as some machined Delrin trays that go in the chassis in various places, as well as a big bag of hardware. Now, I mentioned that motor plate. I actually have an additional add-on set here, and that is this forward motor mount. This actually goes up between the chassis rails and it puts the motor forward and up higher. Center of gravity is going to be a little bit higher, but it's just cool and towards the front, so I'm going to run that option. And then a big aluminum machined mounting tray, not very heavy. It's actually been milled way out, so nice and thin. Kind of adds a little bit of a cool factor. And then we've got this different motor plate that kind of goes in the position where the original one would have been, and it gives you just this big mounting plate so you can mount a receiver or who knows what in that location. But since you won't have anything actually mounted directly to the transmission, he just makes a plate to help you bolt the transmission together, since the motor plate is usually a piece of that puzzle, and giving you just additional mounting locations. Now, as far as shocks go, I picked up a set of the GTR shocks from Traxxas. These are the extra long. The 7462X is the actual part number. And I might use these, or I might use the Proline Pro specs that I've got on the bomber. We'll see. I really like those Pro specs, but I've always had good luck with the GTRs, and they've got a nice big body to them. If I do go with the GTRs, I've got some springs here. These are 7446s. Now, for electronics, I've got a Castle Sidewinder 4 ESC and a 1410 3800 kV motor. This is the exact same motor and ESC combo that I actually have in my TRX4 platform. So it'll be somewhat close to that, although I think the gearing in the TRX4 is going to be a little bit deeper than what we're going to have in our Beast 2. And for the servo, I'm going to be using the servo that I currently have in my Bomber, which is a Futaba S9177 SV. To recap the axles that we're going to be using in this, again, these are axial Bomber or AR60 style axles. I've got Vanquish V2 housings, I've got knuckles, C-hubs, and trusses, all from Vanquish as well. We've got the VXD front axle shafts in there, which are a rebuildable universal joint style, incision lockers, and heavy duty gears. I have a mix and match of links on this with a stainless steel tie rod and a titanium drag link and a Vanquish servo horn. The rear axle is very similar. Again, V2 Vanquish housing, HD gears, incision locker, Vanquish aluminum lockouts and trusses, and that pretty much rounds out the rear axles. I do have Vanquish chromoly rear axle shafts as well. So that's the basis of the parts that we have here to start this build. I'm going to jump right into assembling it. This kit doesn't come with instructions. There's a lot of add-ons and separate pieces and things like that. So if you're interested in it, go to his website. I'll link it in the description below, and you can kind of see what comes with what. You can't just one-click buy everything I have here. You will have to kind of part and piece things together, but I'll try and list everything that I have in the description as best I possibly can. So now let's see what I got done today. Boom. And there it is. Now, today was a pretty productive day, as you can see here. We got everything together. A few little things here and there that, kind of took some messing around and adjusting, going back and forth. And there's still a few things that I'll probably redo, just slight orientations. A lot of these pieces are adjustable as far as where they go. I did play around with the different shock heights and adjustments to try and get it to work with the Proline Pro specs that I had. I did not go with the GTRs that I bought. I thought that these kind of worked well with my unintentional blue theme on here. My knuckles, C-hubs, lockouts are all blue. The servo is a Futaba, so it's got some blue on it, and I think it just worked out in the end. So that's the way that we're going to go. I also decided to go ahead and use some Vanquish Yeti trailing arms instead of the Billetworks ones. These get rid of the rod end that kind of threads onto the end. That's always a weak point with trailing arms. Trailing arms are different than a regular link because you put that pressure point in the middle of them, and you put a way different load on a link than it would normally see. So going with the one-piece trailing arm is going to be a much better design than a trailing arm with a rod end, so I think that that's a better choice there. And then I also used some Vanquish Titanium Yeti upper links to complete my link set. And I think that put everything in pretty decent shape. My pinion angles look good for the ride height that I'm at. And a 350 hub on an AR60 axle on these wheels only puts me like 3/4 of an inch wider than a TRX4 axle with the J Concepts wheels. Pretty interesting that it's that wide and I'm using an AR60 axle. Now, if we're comparing the two trucks, there's massive differences all the way around. Axle clearance under this one, nothing like the TRX4 with portals. And belly clearance the same way. However, center of gravity and control is going to be unmatched with this one in comparison. This one's got a high center of gravity. It looks like a, redneck jacked up truck. This one, low slung, low COG, really probably gonna rip around pretty good. I don't have the sway bars on here either. They needed some tweaking, so they didn't bolt right on with how I wanted. We'll come up with a solution for that at a later date. I bolted in that Castle 1410 3800 kV motor, and I put a transmission case in there with that BWD electronics plate. I don't have anything in the transmission though. There is no spur gear or any guts, and I don't have any drive shafts on here yet either. I did need to take and flip that electronics tray upside down that was included here. It actually interfered with the motor plate on that transmission, and I would have had to space it way out for it to actually clear, and I don't think that would have worked with the top shaft. So ended up having to flip that, which I don't really mind just because I don't really want a bathtub in this. If I'm gonna drive it in the mud ever, possibly, I don't want it to just collect all of that mud. So flipped upside down will be just fine. And as far as that little sumo body goes, I think it's gonna work out just fine. I cut a couple of holes in the back for shock mounts, but it goes on there, and I think it's gonna look pretty aggressive, pretty mean looking. It'll just clear the front of the servo, I'll probably have to do a little bit of trimming here and there, and I'm going to raise the front of it up just a little bit so that it sits kind of level. But it should definitely give this thing an appropriate mega truck look. Definitely looking forward to that. Since the inner cage portion of this chassis is very small in comparison to a body and things like that, I thought about just removing it completely, just as it doesn't really fit well with, you know, the look. If you were going to try and run it without that, maybe just some panels on it or something, maybe it would look okay, but it doesn't really fit all that well, so it might just get cut, or I might try and make something different that sits inside that kind of looks more like a cage. Could be a fun mix and match of fabrication and flat plate chassis stuff, but we'll have to wait for a later date on that. We've got a number of parts that we're still going to have to kind of find, including drive shafts, transmission insides, things here and there, and then of course we got to get the body painted. But I am glad that I finally got everything, you know, initially started. I've been sitting on these parts for a month or two at least and just haven't got around to it. So I was glad that now was the time that I finally was able to do that. If you guys have any suggestions of things that you'd like to see done to this, absolutely let me know. I'm open to suggestions because right now it's just kind of at the point where I'm just finishing off some things, and I guess now's the time to either add details or just button it up and run it. So drop any ideas you have in the comment section below. Again, I'll try and link to as many of these products as I can in the description. If you have any questions, I can try and answer them as best I possibly can, or you may have to hit up Billetworks yourself and try and get some of the last few details. But with that, guys, thanks for watching. It's another project that hit the bench and just had to get put together. So thanks for watching as always. Hit the like button if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.